Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation. I'm Jeff, and today on episode 136, we're taking a look at every game hitting the Nintendo Switch through the week ending February 13th. You can find Nindie Nation on Twitter, come hang out with us on Discord where we're playing through Freedom Planet, or check out the week's new releases with us right here on YouTube every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern during our Nindies at Night stream. I feel like the eShop ebbed and flowed a lot so far in 2022, with some weeks being slower on the new releases and some weeks being, well, like this one. Make no mistake, we've got a great show for you this week, citizens, with probably one of the largest rosters of quality releases Nindie Nation has ever covered. Before we get to that though, we usually start with the neglected Nindies, the games that released since our last episode. This week, however, guys, you didn't miss anything, I promise. So, with that out of the way, let's kick off this amazing week with the 30 new releases hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, February 13th. A few weeks back, we checked out Unstrong Space Calamity by Origami Hero Games. It was an ambitious 3D platformer inspired by Super Mario Galaxy that had a lot of great ideas and was pretty fun to play, but ultimately it felt a bit too rough around the edges for my liking. On Monday the 13th, they release Unstrong Legacy for a cool $1.99, and this just might be what the doctor ordered. It's a cute, lighthearted exploration platformer where you lose all your stuff and have to go find it in a pseudo-open world. Keeping in mind that this game is only $2, if you temper your expectations, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. Also on Monday, we get a dungeon-crawling trifecta from Orange Pixel, a solo developer who has a knack for fun, simple games that are consistently well-made. Heroes of Loot 2 drops for $8.99 and has you exploring 100 top-down levels while swapping between 4 characters. And it includes couch co-op too. His past releases like Gunslugs, Residual, and Meganoid have all been solid, so I have no concerns recommending his latest release. And I look forward to playing through it myself, as well as all of its procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! Always nice to get one of those out of the way so early, isn't it? Also, if you want to learn more about the life of an indie developer, go check out Orange Pixel on YouTube and let Pascal tell you all about his life as an indie developer through his weekly developer logs. They're really interesting. And Roll 7 starts the drop on Tuesday with the highly anticipated OlliOlli World, which, by all accounts so far, seems to deliver in spades. OlliOlli Switch Stance combines the first 2 entries in their colorful, side-scrolling skateboarding game and comes frequently recommended by this very channel. OlliOlli World takes that formula and builds everything around a living, breathing world that you can freely explore in between stages. The artwork is undeniably charming, and from what I've heard so far, the IDM and electronica soundtrack fits in perfectly. Plus, the game is built for players of any skill level. Most should have little trouble reaching the end of the story, but few will be able to complete every optional challenge. My only hesitation is that it comes with a $30 price tag and already has $30 worth of future expansions planned, so even though the game seems enormous, you're going to be paying for it. That said, as the reviews start rolling in, OlliOlli World is already sitting at an impressive 89 on Metacritic and looks to be a fun ride for all types of players, and one of the best indies to release so far this year. Alright. Okay, so since I recorded it, you're getting this off-the-cuff Nindie Nation update. So since I have recorded this episode, I have spent a couple hours with OlliOlli World, and I gotta say, this game is awesome. It delivers on everything that I just said, and it does so in spades. I have been loving the hell out of my time with it, and I strongly recommend it. Stay tuned because we'll probably check it out during Nindies at Night this week. And while I know your wallet is already sweating, if you're the type of gamer who enjoys solving environmental puzzles with a friend, you might not want to put it away just yet. On Tuesday, Mad Life and TLM deliver a gorgeous 3D world with plenty of stuff to keep your brain busy with Zoraya, the Celestial Sisters for, well, It doesn't appear to have a price yet, so if I can find one, it'll be on screen right now. This appears to be a game meant for 2 players, so you'll want a partner to play with, but you can play online or via split screen. The mechanics surrounding shadows, light, and elements all look fun to tinker with too. So call up your friend who played through Portal 2 with you nearly a decade ago, and let them know that you just might have found your next game to tackle together. Phew, okay. 4 games down, more than 20 to go, and we're already off to a great start. Let's pause for a second and douse the flames of these hot indies with a few games that you'll just want to set fire to. PixArts is back with more borderline illegal asset flips with Pinball Frenzy and Word Chef, which asks you to piece together words via alphabet soup. As an example, 2 words that equal complete garbage starts with the letter P and ends with XArts. And you know you're in for a good time with a game developed by
The Dollar Game Store!
With that name, they really only had one job, and yet they failed miserably by releasing a lazy puzzle game called Blips for $10. Has anyone else noticed that something's up with Forever Entertainment recently? Because they've been porting a bunch of bargain bin junk, which, for a while, I thought they'd gotten away from. Dino Galaxy Tennis might not be awful, but you're certainly not going to find a recommendation for it out of Nindie Nation. We might be back later with a couple more Nindie no-nos, but let's put a pin in them for now and see what's on tap for Wednesday the 9th. El Gancho translates to the hook, and that's exactly what you'll use to swing your way around a boatload of randomly generated levels in the latest retro-inspired release by East Asia Soft and Sidral Games. At $6.99, it may not have that 80s Capcom charm, but should go a long way to filling that Bionic Commando-shaped hole in your life. And, you know, I am not the person to tell you about this game, but the first release by Nindie newcomer
Fico
Games hopes to capitalize on your nostalgia for the wrestling classics of the 90s. Action arcade wrestling pulls no punches with its intent, but the art style is really, I don't know, it's off to me. It also includes magic spells or something. It's got a character creator, which I know is important for people who play these games, and it brings with it a $15 price tag. But if you're always on the lookout for the next WrestleMania, the arcade game, maybe keep an eye out for this one's reviews. Before the big Thursday drop, which is a big one this week, like a really big one,
Sam
Games releases an indie game that indies harder than most indies can ever Nindie, and I think a lot of you are gonna dig it. So open up the eShop and go grab the demo for Letters, a Written Adventure. Featuring a heartwarming coming-of-age story, you follow Sarah through the trials and tribulations of growing up in the 90s as she builds and nurtures friendships through all sorts of written communication. The hand-drawn art is really charming, and the way you solve riddles by walking around on the pages of your writing is very clever. Check out the demo, and if it's up your alley, you can pick it up when Plug-in Digital publishes it on Wednesday for $14.99. All right. You ready for a huge Thursday drop? Because we've got 20, that's right, 20 games releasing on Thursday the 10th, and almost all of them look great. There are 4, however, with a very specific target demographic, so let's knock those out real quick. UFO Interactive and Humongous Digital have been re-releasing kids' edutainment games from the early PC CD-ROM era, and while these are all well and good, I can't imagine anyone being seriously interested unless you grew up playing them as an elementary school kid and now have kids of your own. All of the following are cartoony point-and-click adventures specifically for kids. Pajama Sam, no need to hide when it's dark outside. Pajama Sam 2, thunder and lightning aren't so frightening. Oh, I see what they're doing there. Putt Putt saves the zoo. And Spy Fox in dry cereal. Whatever that means. All 4 are $14.99 each, but launch with a discount, bringing them down to $12 a pop.
Fill your tank, save the zoo. Get in step, save the zoo. Check your tires, save the zoo. And go get Pab, save the zoo.
As for the other 16 games dropping on Thursday the 10th, we've got Grapple Dog, a quote,
bold and funky
action platformer by Medallion Games for $14.99. I assume the visuals are supposed to resemble a GBA game because the bright, oversaturated colors with simple but bold assets really remind me of similar games on the system. This is another game, oddly enough, inspired by Bionic Commando because, as the name implies, you get a grapple hook to add even more variety into this adventure, which already looks chock full of different challenges, environments, and enemies. I'm really optimistic about this one and hope we get to check it out on Nindies at Nite. Night Dive Studios is back with a port of one of the first console first-person shooters ever as they release Power Slave Exhumed for $19.99. I've got a lot of nostalgia for this one, remembering my time with it back on the PS1. It's similar to other FPSs of the era, a lot like Duke Nukem 3D, where it's a bit more of an adventure with varied tasks in each level and lots of platforming. Honestly, I can't see through my nostalgia glasses enough to say if it's actually going to hold up in 2022, but if you have fond memories of Power Slave, as I do, I'm confident that Night Dive will yet again deliver the goods. New Star Games is a developer who is pretty new to the Switch, but has a decent history of making retro-inspired sports games for iOS and Android. This week, alongside 5 Aces Publishing, they bring Retro Bowl to the eShop for $2.99, which is a 40% discount on its regular price of $5. It's clearly Tecmo Bowl, and it's 100% aimed at people who played Tecmo Bowl back in the late 80s and early 90s. No clue if the game will actually be any good, but the developer does have pretty positive reviews on the mobile stores, and at only $3, it's not a huge gamble if you're interested. Another developer new to the Switch who has a previous mobile release is Whale Food Games, and they give us the wacky, sports game? Kung Fu Kickball. This feels like a different take on Nidhogg, as you play one-on-one and just have to get the ball to the other side of the screen. But of course, there's all kinds of zany kung fu stuff going on too. It might be a good time, and after loving Blackwind, the publisher Blowfish Studios is certainly on my good side. But even with a discount, it launches for $15.99, which just seems like way too much. A couple more titles that put the indie in Nindie include Cellular Harvest by Redact Games and A Priori Digital for $7.99. There's really no better way to say this than telling you that it's Pokemon Snap, but set in a primitive polygonal space where you take pictures of bugs. It does have positive reviews on Steam, but similar to Retro Bowl, is probably only going to appeal to those of you who are already fond of the game it's inspired by. And then Giant Door releases their first Switch title, a silly little puzzle platformer meant for solo or co-op play called, almost too fittingly, Derpy Conga. There's a demo already available if you want to give it a go, but basically you get a small group of friendly little alien things, and they hold hands as they solve puzzles. It looks pretty cute and might be fun to play with the kids though. It's $16.99, and with a demo out there to try, you can decide for yourself if it is worth the price. Even with all these awesome games in this week's lineup, it's the latest release by Atom Vision Studios that I know I'm picking up immediately. After multiple simple neon-infused arcade games like Ding Dong XL and Super Bit Blaster XL, Atom secured the Atari license and released his recharged versions of Missile Command, Centipede, and most recently, Asteroids. Well, he's been a busy boy, and I'm happy to see it, because this week we get his techno-rave take on my favorite Atari game with Breakout Recharged for $9.99. If you don't like Breakout, this probably isn't going to change your mind, but if you do, definitely put this one on your wish list. And then a roguelike deck builder based on feudal Japan drops for $14.99 as Castle Morihisa. As Castle Morihisa comes by way of Thermite Games and Smoking Bear Studio. Well, that certainly conjures up interesting imagery, doesn't it? There's barely any information to go off of, but hey, at least we have enough information to say that it includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! Apparently, there was a free-to-play game called Noel the Mortal Fate that started back in 2016 and ended up spawning 7 seasons of games, comics, and even shows. This week, Captain Capslock themselves
Playism!
bundles all kinds of adventure, RPG, and visual tropes into one package that is anime as fuck. Noel the Mortal Fate is developed by Baku and releases for $24.99. Taking place in the Canadian far north, Inua, A Story of Ice and Time is a narrative adventure where you follow a trio of explorers whose fate is intertwined because of a 10,000-year-old polar bear, I think. It's very artsy-fartsy, that's for sure. It seems like a passive adventure solely focused on the story and has a very relaxing vibe. It drops for $13.49 and is released by Eco, The Pixel Hunt, and Art Experience. Let me pull my soapbox over here for a second. You know, a lot of people like to bitch about the games that are released on Nintendo Switch Online, but I love all the lesser-known titles, regardless of if they're good or not. I can play Earthbound or Super Mario RPG literally anywhere else. One of the better games that was way overlooked on this service is the action platformer Super Valis 4, and you should check it out on Nintendo Switch Online if you haven't. On Thursday, EDS celebrates the 35th anniversary of the Valis series by porting the first 3 entries of the series in Valis the Phantasm Soldier Collection for a preposterous $39.99.
What?
These are pretty good 2D action platformers that had a lot of great ideas that we now take for granted. Throw it on your wish list, check out number 4 via NSO, and if you like it, consider this collection when it goes on sale, because that price is crazy town. Ooh, story time! In 2009, I was one of 52 cases of swine flu in the state of New Mexico. During the week or so that I was sick, I basically drifted in and out of fever-ridden consciousness and had some of the trippiest, most bizarre dreams I otherwise never would have thought were possible. Meringue Interactive must have been inside my head, or maybe they also had swine flu, because those fever dreams are the best way I can describe About an Elf. The description says, "This is a point-and-click-ish,
RPG-ish.
visual novel-ish game of gigantosome proportions."
What the hell did you just say?
It's $12, and I have no idea what the fuck is going on here. Similarly perplexing, but with much more to go off of, Triple Topping created a biographical adventure game that received rave reviews last year, and Welcome to Elf comes to the Switch this week for $11.99. It's got this really cool coloring book art style that mixes black and white with color, and is all about the stories its island inhabitants share with you. Apparently they're all real stories and range from the lighthearted to the dark and depressing. It's not necessarily one that's for me, but the positive reviews are undeniable. So if you're intrigued by its true stories that will send you on a roller coaster of emotions, let me know what you think. And rounding out this humongous Thursday drop, we get 3 different flavors of RPGs that I think all look fantastic. Ooh, can we get some RPG music in the background here? Let's see, go through here, go through here. Ooh, good, generic RPG adventure music, go. If you played Squaresoft games back in the 90s, this first one should look familiar, as Eglia Rebirth is designed by the artists from the Mana series, and even carries a soundtrack from Yoko Shimomura of Kingdom Hearts fame. The game looks so much like Legend of Mana, it's ridiculous. It started as a free-to-play mobile game where there's less emphasis on combat and more on building a world and life simulation. There is combat, but it's a light, turn-based affair with dice rolling that definitely takes a back seat to the world building. The team at Brownies Inc. has combined all of the mobile versions and a bunch of their content into a reworked port that works for the Switch, and as long as the reviews look decent, I'll probably pick it up when it launches this week for $19.99. But the one that I'm most excited about is a bit of a mess to explain. Rise of the Third Power takes place in the 1930s and, based on the name, should clue you in that it has themes around the build-up to the First World War. Yet, it's a turn-based JRPG with fantasy characters and dragons and magic and all of that. So, visually, it looks like a modernized Genesis game. In fact, I initially got Shining Force vibes before I saw the combat, which is typical JRPG turn-based combat, but with a timeline on the top, similar to Grandia, Child of Light, Final Fantasy X, and the like. It's developed by Dangan Entertainment, who has a great track record and also releases for $19.99. And then the last of our trio of RPGs is Ocean's Heart by Max Mraz and Nordcurrent, this one for $14.99. As you can see, it falls somewhere between Secret of Mana and classic top-down Zelda. The whole game is centered around a pirate theme and is billed as an action RPG complete with upgradable equipment, all kinds of trinkets to find, and big old dungeons to test your puzzle-solving abilities. Ocean's Heart looks great and certainly leans hard into its inspirations, so this is another one that I am definitely going to be keeping my eye on. Okay, Friday, 3 more. Pendulous Swing: The Complete Journey is a point-and-click adventure that takes place in the Roaring '20s, but also includes goblins and similar monsters, but seemingly in a light-hearted way. Your character has saved the world and become an idol, and now you explore and find romance. It's $9.99 and clearly geared towards those CRPG fans looking for something a little more bite-sized and a little less daunting. Ratalaika's release for the week is Blackberry Honey for $12.99. It's a visual novel about anime maids and claims to be full of frilly dresses and romance set in a Victorian setting. I was gonna write more, but I had to do it quickly because my kids were in the room when I had the game's eShop page pulled up, and it's pretty horny. And finally, another title set in an alternate history, Scoutfold: Shrouded in Sanity, is an action-adventure of sorts by Pugware and
Red Art Games!
releasing for $9.99. It takes place in 1897 and just oozes Castlevania vibes. But the gameplay is somewhere between an isometric RPG and an arcade beat-em-up. It's a pretty cool looking setup that's kinda hard to describe, but if you're into this Victorian horror type stuff, it's probably up your alley. Holy crap, what a list! OlliOlli World, Heroes of Loot 2, Grapple Dog, Power Slave, Breakout, all 3 of those RPGs, so much good stuff this week. Let me know if anything here is going on your wish list, and if there's anything on today's list that is a must-buy for you. As if that wasn't enough, the indie deals are on fire this week too, and there's a lot of them, so come join our Discord server or check the comments below to see everything that's worth picking up. For now though, to wrap up today's episode, these are our picks for the 7 best Nindies on sale at their lowest prices ever through at least February 16th. Nindie Nation's number 2 game of the year, Dreamscaper, is currently 30% off for $17.49, and I cannot recommend this game highly enough. Similar to Hades, you spend most of your time in isometric combat with occasional breaks to build relationships that strengthen your character. The game has much more variety in the weapons and abilities that you can find, and I found the story to be quite compelling. If you're looking for a trifecta, check this one out because it is filled to the brim with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! Number 7 on our Game of the Year list is Cyber Shadow, one of the hardest games I've ever played. At 30% off for $13.99, it's not the most expensive game, but it is certainly punishing. It's basically a modern-day take on games like Ninja Gaiden and has one of my favorite modern gaming soundtracks. If you're in the mood for a challenge, don't miss it. But if you just want to run around and blow stuff up, man, Fury Unleashed is just a treat. There's a demo you can check out already, and at $6.99, a 65% discount, it's the lowest price we've seen yet. Take 80s action movie tropes, throw them all into a comic book, and build something like a Metroid game if it was fused with the run and gun of Contra, and you're kinda on the right track. Just go play the demo. The game is awesome. It's one of my favorites of 2020, and is also locked and loaded with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! Okay. If nobody buys this next game, I am quitting the channel. Seriously, Velocity 2X is probably the most hidden of Nindie gems I can think of. It's kind of a top-down shmup and kind of a fast-paced side-scroller, but all very fast arcadey action with a sci-fi tone that is excellent. Plus, it plays great on Switch, especially in handheld where you can use the touchscreen if you choose to. Velocity 2X is a whopping 80% off right now at only $3.99 and is one of the highest rated indies for the Switch. And a game I've promised to promote every time it's on sale is the combo-driven jump and shoot but sometimes slash with a katana in slow motion while you're surfing on the back of a missile action of the Bleed Complete Bundle, which is at its usual 85% discount of only $4.19. These are two excellent arcadey action games that only take an hour or so to beat, but are infinitely replayable. If you're picking up the Bleed Complete Bundle because of this show, let me know. I want to know what you think because I love these games. You gotta try them. One of the more recent games on today's list is another game of arcadey action, but Jetboard Joust focuses much more on being a trifecta version of Defender. You fly around side-scrolling worlds, you save people when you can find them, you go hunt down upgrades, and see how high of a score you can rack up. It's great pick-up-and-play fun, and at only $4.99, it's just waiting for you to dive headfirst into its procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! Kinda went flat on that one, didn't I? Anyways. And last up for this episode of Nindie Nation is a game that I implore you to play if you have a young kid who is just getting into reading. Jenny LeClue Detective Vu is a kinda point-and-clicky adventure game all about a young girl on a detective quest to free her mother after she was framed for murder. It's got a fun, welcoming art style that sometimes gets a little spooky but carries an excellent story and great humor that should hook any budding reader. Even more, it's 88% off for just $2.99, so even if you get just a little bit of time out of it, it's still not a huge time investment. Go play a game with your kids, you know? But like I said, there are so many more great deals this week, so head down to the comments, let me know what you're picking up and what else you saw on sale that the Nindie Nation citizens should check out. You can also find us on Twitter, but the best conversations are happening over on our Discord channel, so come hang out. The links to everything are in the description below. If you want to help us grow, please click like on this video, leave a comment, subscribe, and share Nindie Nation with other gaming communities. With such a huge week this week, my wallet is already crying knowing that Infernax is just around the corner. But hopefully the eShop calms down just a little bit so, we can have some time to play all of these great new games. Until next week, citizens, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 136. And remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons safe.